Okay, so continuing now, Ois Gimel. We'll start again. So it's the Aleph that's concealed, that's withdrawn, and he explained the Aleph on two levels. He explained the Aleph, Chachmas Timah, basically just in one word, Chachmas Timah is withdrawn. Level 2, Chachma Gluya is withdrawn, which is Atzilus, Lamaylim Atzilus. So now having said that, and so the whole Amshach, Rosh Hashanah, down to Maaseh B'Poel of a Shofar, is to be Mamshech Hashem's desire again through this whole process of Echad, which is the revelation of Hashem in such a way that we should know the truth of Yochid. That's withdrawn. And that we have to be Mamshech Mechodash, anew. So let's, again, Lavin calls it B'Pratis Yoser. To understand this in more detail in Iksiv, Neitzer Chesed La'alofim, he preserves Chesed for 2,000 generations. The Alofim in base beginnes Aleph Anal, the Alofim, the two Aleph, refers to the two Alephs referred to earlier, Chachmas Timah, Chachma Gluya. Beis Aleph and Elam Shachosem, whom beginnes Neitzer Chesed, so they are drawn down through this level described as he preserves Chesed. Here, the chesed or chazdei or atzmi, here is the essential chesed, not a chesed that is aroused from the matter, but a chesed that is intrinsic and essential, as it was revealed when Hashem first created. There was no avodas hamata, so skichofetz chesed who he desires chesed, and that's why, and that's tamshach as an act of pure revelation from above. That's the unit of Chesed. What's Neitzer? Neitzer Chesed. So Neitzer is Oisis Tziner. So Neitzer has the same letters as the word Tziner, which means a pipe, or a channel, or a funnel. Meira la Tzimtzum, al Tzimtzum mashpasa Chesed. So this conveys that the Chesed comes down in a way of Tzimtzum. Shimshach al dei Tziner dak, it comes down through a narrow Tziner. Like someone who pours water from a large barrel to small kelim. So it's through a tziner. Without it, the water would not be drawn into the kelim. They would spill everywhere. Sheitim just means pour out. And then spill outside, not in the kelim. So that tziner defects that the water should be drawn into the kelim. So much so, everything that's in the barrel through the agency of the kelim, of the tziner, ends up in the kelim. So what's the dugma l'maylo? So the dugma is l'maylo shebechdei sheti hamshacha ba'alofim. You know that the Amshacha should be in the Alephs. The Aleph, he says, with the two levels of Mamutza. Showing Mamutza, Vaschala Seder Shtachos Kanal. So why there two? Because there's the general Mamutza, that's Chachmas Timon, but Proteus, Atzilus, is the Mutza to Biyah. In other words, Atzilus is always this enigmatic level itself that implied by the word Atzilus. Eitzel, close, near, and Lahatzil, to emanate, far, not far, but at least projecting outwards. Because Atzilus is in general the Mamutza between Ein Sof and Biyah. But the Pratis, it's also an Olam. So the Pratis is the Mamutza for Atzilus Gufa, and whatever flows below is Chachmas Timah. But Bechlolus, Atzilus itself is Mamutza. That's why the two Alephs. Anyway, so what is Mamshech into the Aleph? How from the Eid in Sof is the Amshacha into Chachmas Timah, the Aleph, or Chachma Gluya? It has to be through a tziner. Without which the Eid cannot be nimshach in kelim. because Atzilus is at the end of the day Kalim and certainly Biyah. Without the tziner, so that Amshach will end up being as dispersed, as a word for this. Then it would end up in a place where it's not, where it shouldn't be, Klippa. If there isn't a tziner that directs the Amshach in the way it should be, so then, this is the idea, by the way, of the mitzvah slices, they're the veins in that make sure that the blood isn't dispersed wantonly, but directed the way it should be. Healthy body. Otherwise the blood, right, that's disease. So that's the end of the tziner that should be nimshech memakim aroy. Al yedei atziner. So, but through the tziner shul klolus in akav, that's the kav. All right, so that's what the tziner is. It's the kav. They are pnimis akav. As we learned earlier in the previous maamar, the maamar before, the chitzoni is the kav is just simply it's gvul. So what have we accomplished? The whole point is that you want to get in the moshel, the water from the barrel into the kalim. But so the moshel, it works. But in the nimshel, the chayda, b'chitzoni, the kav is now altogether gvul, and the whole point is that the eir itself should be nimshach lemata. That's what he says now, that the pnimius akav, it's true b'chitzonius, it's a measured, graded projection of alikus, but the pnimius akav, which means the pnimius akavan is carried through. Nimshach called pnimius v'atzm sa'ir, in the pnimius, latently in Travaila that we access this, is the pnimius v'atzm sa'ir, shlifnei tzimtzum, it's all present, notwithstanding the tzimtzum, and it's drawn therefore the pnimius, ba'kelim datzilus, in atzilus, which is the first mekabel, bal yodam gam b'biyah, and through atzilus and biyah. V'atam atzimtzum l'tzinuru. So what's the point of this old tzimtzum? Because that's the kavanah. Direb tachtonim mitzad ritzoyin yizbarach, because Hashem's desire, his deep desire, shemushach lamata, that the Eir Itself should be revealed in gvul lamata, and that's also hinted to in this word noitzer chesed. Because we're saying this over and over again, Yom Kippur, right? Shezeh noitzer chesed is oisius rotzen. In addition to being oisius tziner, it also is the same word as the word rotzen. Shemitzad ritzoyin the yizbarach shechavitz chesed who, because of the Eibishter's rotzen that he wants chesed, meaning to say he wants gila likus lamata. So in order to effect that, nasa tzimtzum the tziner, so you have to have to have a mata, you have to have a tziner. There's got to be the tzimtzum, the kav. Days and nimshach ba'alofim. This causes the earth to be nimshach in all of the levels of ishtalshul, starting with chachma stima, the first memutza, and chachma gluya, the second, the lower memutza. We're clear so far? There's water, bottles of water in the kitchen. If you don't mind. Thank you very much. Now here, our pasuk said, Noitzer chesed la'alafim. He preserves. That sometimes is written in Parshas Yitzray, V'oiseh chesed la'alafim. So here's also the union of chesed la'alafim, damshacha, into the olives, but not noitzer, but oiseh does. Not there. So what is the difference? Thank you very much. Shigam b'posik zeh nemar chesed la'alafim means also says chesed la'alafim, avalei nemar noitzer, but it doesn't say noitzer ela oiseh. So we have to understand, how is it possible? There should be more copies. There's one on the table. Maybe up there too. You have one? So, Page 28 at the bottom. Noitzer and Oyser are two separate things. But not only that, we say to Mizeshem, based on Yonam HaFochim, they're opposites. Why? Ki Oyser is al Gemara Hatikun. The word Oyser means the completion of an act. This is the Yefas Toya. So she should make her nails literally, let them grow. So that's what Oyser means. Gemara Tikun, fixing something in the completion of it. Whereas Noitzer Oyser Sinner, but Noitzer, which has the letters, the word Sinner, which means a channel, the contrary, that's containing. So Oyser means fixing, completing. Now it's fully manifest. In other words, it's fully expressed. And nails in this case, and nails means pshat yifasht, they have to grow fully expressed. Not she shouldn't cut them. So that's gilui v'asasa, and yet sinner means the opposite, tzimtzum. Moreover, another problem, v'gam pirish noitzer hu meloshen amtana v'akova. That's how the simple pshat. Hashem preserves. He preserves his chesed and meets it out, as it were, over the generations. Keeps it. For 2,000 generations, a good deed gets rewarded. So it's amtana v'akova. Amtana means to wait, akova to hold back. Shogam kin heipech inyan agili. V'osa means it's down, it's manifest, also opposite gilui. There's noitzer means he waits and then bestows it. Then there's a gilui, but it's held held in reserve. Avalachshov, but noitzer means he preserves it, but right it will be. But ein kan gilui klal. That's a pshat in the pasuk. You do an act, you're not getting all the schar now. It's preserved and then revealed at certain for 2,000 generations. So noitzer implies no gilui. So therefore, how do we reconcile Beizon Yonim the Noitzer V'Oiser? Right. So the pasuk says Chesed La'alofim, which means Gilui into Chacham Stima and Chacham Agluya. So how could it be Noitzer and both Oiser? Noitzer is Tzimtzum and Oiser is Gilui. Okay, let's see the answer. Yeah. Same Indian, the same madrege, chesed la'alofim. 2-7 psukim. Let's begin the journey, friends. Even the back to Mashakos to begin Gemara Mesach Shabbos. Understand this by prefacing what it says in the Gemara Mesach Shabbos. It's what's interesting why the Rabbi would say sometimes brings the bucket, sometimes doesn't. So the Gemara there talks about the Aleph base and actually says something like the children in Bavel are taught secrets that Yeshua didn't teach. And one of them is the meaning of the Aleph base. They're learning Aleph base. So what's the meaning of Aleph base? Aleph base is Aleph being teaching understanding. Pshat is learn understanding. Aleph base is saying learn Torah. Learn Torah. Learn that which brings understanding. Aleph bin. That's the Gemara. Now, the Panimius, what does it mean? Hainush is Aleph remezes leidak the Bechinas HaChochma. Aleph eludes not just the Chochma, as we said earlier, the Aleph is made up of Yuds. Yud and Amshach in between. Elagam leBechinas HaBina. The word Aleph already implies bina. Why? Because aleph bina, teach bina, teaching something. So bina is already implicit in the word aleph. You can explain that. Chachmas, bina is bina. Why are we saying that aleph is implicit in aleph is the union of bina? The hine, vowel cause is important. Yeah. So Chachma Bina in Trainerei in Dule Misparish and the Lashon of the Zoya, Velveleben, yeah. Yeah. Oh, wow. Okay, shkoyach. Okay. Yeah, okay. All right, shkoyach v'ovalim. Okay, bye. So Chachma bin in Teirein Misparshin, Chachma bin are two friends that do not separate. Why is that? The discovery, the Nakuda, that's what Chachma is. It has to go. It's going to be manifest in a revealed way, Nasaga and Bina. So one, it's inevitable that from the Nakuda of Chachma will be Bina. Well, he's actually going to say it's not. Let's reserve. Let's I see he's going the other side of the coin. So let's go a bit further and give him more explanation. Well, there you go. And that's what's explained elsewhere. In Imli Bina, sheyesh b'bchinas hachachma, ma shelo yovel l'dei hasoga. He actually says something else. There he says that what's revealed in Bina is the chitzonius of chachma, relatively speaking. But the pnimius of chachma is not revealed altogether. Answer: it's taka the pnimius, so that vision, that euphoric epiphany of vision, that is not given to articulation. That remains a visionary thing, a sight. And that's not revealed. Like Rav was silent when he was asked a shaila against his din. He couldn't answer. Rav became the Hodarbe. He didn't retract. He maintained his opinion. Why? Because he couldn't explain it, but he saw it. That's because the Re'iyah Hanacha means that's the way it sets with him. That's the position of Chachma Shalmali min HaSeichel Lagamri, which is beyond articulated Seichel. So the Rebbe is saying now that taka what that level Pnimius HaChachma is taka not. It's higher than Gili. But we're not speaking of that. But the more conscious level of the Chachma, where there's already some measure of rationale to this, not just a vision. You see a truth, but there's an understanding of a truth. In the Kudus HaChachma, it's in the Kudah, not the ear, but in the Kudah of Chachma, that is going to naturally, why? Very simply, because since the process of understanding has begun, you can't hold it back. It's going to develop into Bina. Like a spring, a river will flow from it. Once it's bubbling, it's going to bubble and produce. Yeah, that's because you get distracted. But if you're going to remain, you can stop there and lose it. But if you're going to continue entertaining it, it's going to develop into Bina. As long as you're still thinking about this Chachma and engaged in that process, it just naturally starts to develop. Like the Tippa naturally develops into the child. I think that Moshe is coming later, we're going to see. But he's far from over. So this from also, guys, you with me there? Page 29. Yeah. So this also, perforce, we must conclude, and that's the Aleph Bina. Teach Bina. They're inseparable. Sheyesh iskala l'sabina b'chachma. Now the other way is also true. If chachma ends up into Bina, then there's Bina in chachma. What does that mean? Because the details are there in chachma. They're just submerged, but they're there. It's from there. So if chachma is going, I'm just saying this, if chachma is going to produce Bina, it's not yesh ma'ayin. It must mean that Bina is there. So Bina is there in a very latent way. The points are all there, but undeveloped. So later it'll come in Gilui v'Hasaga. So that's what we mean. But is this clear? Yeah, it's all there. So this is the meaning of the Zohar. Chacham Bina, two friends that are inseparable. That's the way it is. Even in the Nekudas HaChachma, inevitable Bina is already present. It's also true from Bina's perspective, Shekol Hasaga the Bina, it doesn't come in a vacuum. Everything that the Bina has developed, now he's saying as another point actually, even in Bina as it develops, if it's going to be true to the original idea remains. There's a Nakuda. And this Nakuda is what is causing the expansion, but if it's true Bina, it's always faithful to the Nakuda. That's the Pratim Behelim, yeah?
It doesn't need to come out in this sort of Bina. I guess it's like an infinite...
Relatively speaking, yeah, a person can keep on mining that idea for further and further. Yeah, it's a long, but whatever, but it's all there. It's all there. Nothing coming. It's nothing that appears magically. It's all in the Nekudas HaChachma. Good, so far. Now, let's go further. What we just said now is not a contradiction. Which says something else. Let's see. No. Till now we explained that Bina is the natural development of Chachma, or it's present in Chachma latently. But elsewhere, in Bina again, there it says, no, that Bina has a different shirish. The shirish of Bina is the etzem koyach hamaskil shelamali v'achachma. Higher than Chachma, has a higher source. Okay, we're not shocked to hear this. It's always the same paradox, that the lower or more finite an expression of Alikus is, the deeper it's rooted in the source. Huh? I didn't do it. What says Tanya? That's a river. I have to look up the Gemara there. Mivrach means it expands, but it's expanding from where it's held back. Yeah, if you don't mind, so the Gemara Shabbos, Samachei Beis, you can look it up there. Kinyin zeh, humitzad mailis shreidish habina. So that, however, so to reconcile what we're saying there, what we just said now, that is the shreidish habina. Shemushreshes b'koyach hamaskil, that it's rooted in the koyach hamaskil, not simply coming in, not simply chachma. We're not tracing chachma to Bina, but the koyach hamaskil to lakam, as we will presently explain. Let's look up the Gemara Shabbos Samachei. Amud Aleph. Yeah. On the base. It means from its bed. Okay, so in the water, it's machlekes here about gabi a mikveh if a river is swollen with rain, so it's kosher or not because it's rainwater and zoichelin. So machlekes is an expanded river if we attribute that, the most of the water at least, to rainwater or its source. And he's of the opinion that no, that mivrach it expands. Masham shacha yikifir from its source, the bed, the bedrock. Footnote 5. Literally rock. Though it seems to swell through the rains, actually more water gushes up from the riverbed than added by rain. So therefore, the mikveh is, the river is a kosher mikveh. So he's saying here is that Bina, which is the union of the expansion, the Nahar, Cheves HaNahar, comes from the bedrock, literally the Koyach HaMaskil. So that, to reconcile to what we're saying now, is that is the Shoresh. Shalochin, continuing now explaining this source. In Bina, therefore, there is a greater, becomes a greater understanding. What happens is that it's not simply that there's original insight, vision, and bin is the development. But we find this even more than that in the development of the idea itself is deepened beyond the original discovery. That's because bin is mushresh in koyach hamaskil. And the koyach hamaskil is mushresh from this particular idea. It's an inexhaustible well of potential ideas. So it's the same parable, not parable, the same paradox over and over again. That's in the Mekabel and in the Pratim and in the Mata that the etzem is drawn on. And the reason this happens consistently throughout the Shtalshalos, why should it happen this way? It happens in the Shtalshalos consistently because that's the Kavan Elyon. The whole Din of Tachtonim is the template that governs the whole Shtalshalos. And the endless paradox and irony that the lower level is rooted in the higher level, because that started the whole thing. The Eibusha wants to do it, therefore it's carried through in all of Ishtanshalos, including what we're seeing here. Avol, however, even having introduced now this deeper dimension and deeper understanding that Bina is rooted not simply the development of Chachma, but it comes from a higher place. But still, but bin is not going to emerge without Nekudas HaChachma. When it goes to the process of the Nekudah of Chachma, bin doesn't come in a vacuum. You can't have the whole bin process without the Nekudah of Chachma first, right? As Mekabeles HaBina, so then bin emerges, and then it's Mekabel Mishorish Mekayach HaMaskil from its deep source. It's taka rooted in a deeper place. But what's going to trigger Bina's emergence is the Nekudas HaChachma. So in the end it comes out that the Gila of the Shadish of Bina, Chachma Dafka is through Chachma. Right, friends? This is what you said in your Chassidim, I'm assembling it. Malchus. The Shadish of Malchus is in Pnimius. It's higher than Zoh, but it's Zoh that's murdered Malchus, without which its Shadish is not. I hope this is, you're being signed out. I don't know what's going on. I hope this is recording. Yeah. What the is Bezoya, and that's what it says. Zoya, High Chachma. This Chachma is Pashetes v'Ofik Mino Bina. From it expands and Ofik comes out Bina. Because we're speaking about the Gilui. Gilui Abino de Chachma. The Gilui Abino is through Chachma. But in the Chanami, Bina itself has a deeper shadish. So concluding, Vizel Shechachma Binim Tein Reindle Misparshim. So therefore, it's true on the one hand that they're inseparable, because Bina cannot be Bina without Chachma. And as we said, at the first level of our analysis, there is Bina within Chachma, Chachma within Bina. Mitzad Chachma, Mitzad Bina. Chachma has Bina, and Bina has Chachma. For Bina to remain true, there's the Nekudah that defines the whole process of the development of the idea. And likewise, in Chachma, latently are all the pratim of Bina. And then there's a new layer, deeper layer, that Bina is rooted not in Chachma, not to be there latently, but in Esakei Chamaskal. As it goes into say, yeah, we should go a bit further. We'll stop here with the stories. Just the two lines to just whet our appetite for further. So even on the one hand, on the manifested level, they're integrated and inseparable. That's at the manifested level. The process where the spark of the idea, the development, they're inseparable. But in Koyach HaMaskil, they have different sources, and as we just said, Bin is rooted deeper. Shadish HaBina Eina Me'al Chachma. Bina Shadish is not Chachma. As we just said, next page. It has its separate source. Now, interesting thing. Where do we see this? Because in the manifested level, where's there indication that it has a separate source? Other than, as you said before, that that Bina can take the idea beyond the original Chachma insight. But now I see coming a much stronger expression of this in people. There are people that are Chachma people. They're very creative, but they're not articulated. They're not good in expanding it and in the detail. We'll see further, and the other way is also true. You give them an original idea, someone is a good in Bina, and he really develop it. It's great at development, but not at being original, which is indicative that they are two separate inyanim. So, Be'ez Hashem, to be continued tomorrow. Yeah, and we'll never get to Bin and all of its milas and its shirish without the bittul tachachma. Bin on its own is nothing. It's in the kudah that you're expanding. So again, like Zon Malchus, the whole mile of Malchus, it's only revealed in its bittul to Zoh. If it's no bittul to Zoh, it's mile that never emerges.